Hello there, sword friends. This is a different video. I'm sorry, I'm disheveled in a weird spot. It's the crack ass of dawn, and when you get old, sometimes you don't sleep, and when I don't, sometimes I go out and do Iaido to practice, to clear my head. Today, I did something a little different, and I tried to recreate a photo experiment I had done 10 years ago with a tool that's a little more suited to the job than what I had. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I do want to introduce this. It's the Tanjiro Katana from Thai Blade Guild. It's a wooden LED katana, and last I checked, it was about $80. This is a toy and not a practice tool, and so I'm going to keep probably thinking of it as a practice tool and judging it by those merits, but it's not. It's a toy. So keep that in mind. I will talk about it briefly, though. So it's a wooden LED katana that lights up. It's mostly made of plastic. It's not a practice tool, and it lights up, as you can see here. So there's a wooden bit at the, there we go, I sword. So the shinogi area, the spine of the sword is wooden, and then it has this plastic covering that has an LED strip in it, and it moves around. Now, I can also turn it on and off. At the end, there's this little USB port at the end, and if I touch it with my hand and make contact with the metal, which is fiddly to do, the sword turns on. So that's how you turn it on and off, and it lights up, and you charge it with the little USB port at the end. It's got a battery in there, and then you can swing it around to your heart's content. Now, usage-wise, this is about as, it's a little more durable than a yardstick or a meter stick, if you are familiar with that. It's not suited to clickety-clacking around, but if you want to draw and sheath it, you can. If you want to have it light up and look cool, that is the main purpose, and you can do that. Now, in terms of bits and bobs and fits and features, the kashira, all of the fittings are made of plastic. This guy at the end comes off. It looks like there's a little bit of adhesive here, so maybe it wasn't supposed to. And this USB port is what I can turn on and off. And if I make physical contact with it, it turns the blade on and off. Perhaps there is some other way I'm supposed to be doing this. I don't know. but this is the way I found to turn it on and off. It is admittedly fiddly. So if I'm trying to do something particular for photos, it's hard to know if I've successfully turned it on or off, but generally it's reasonably reliable. It doesn't take a whole lot. It's just if you're trying to be very precise with your movements, which may or may not be what I'm trying to do, it's not great for that. Anyway, the fittings are plastic. The Ito is on the looser side. Now, as a toy, it's okay. I would actually kind of like to lacquer this and hold it steady. I don't feel like with me using it, it's going to stay where it is very long. On a Iaito, this would be a failing level of tightness. On a toy, it's probably okay, but I would be tempted to lacquer because I can kind of displace the knots without too much effort. The Fuchi has actually got a better transition to it than on a lot of katana, which is surprising. The Tsuba is plastic. It wiggles around a little bit. I imagine, given that this, in theory, could come apart in some way. I don't know how, but it's a toy, so I could just glue it if I'm bothered by it. There's a habaki. It kind of does the job of keeping the blade from popping out and deploying it with the push of a thumb. The scabbard is plastic, has the same kind of plastic fittings on it, and I bet I could pull them off if I wanted to, though, again, they're just plastic and it's a toy. I could re-secure them with a bit of glue. Now, the blade is a little raspy. Not a big deal for a toy, but it draws and sheaths, and, you know, it is tensioned about right, and I can do movements with Japanese swords with this, which is what I couldn't do when I did this photo exercise a while ago. So to tell you what I did, this morning I decided to be creative rather than just do some EI for my own enjoyment. And I brought this sword out and was trying to use the live composite feature in my old Olympus camera, which is what I did before. So some years ago, I had my Iaito and an LED light strip, which I taped over the blade and tried to do a live composite photo, which is basically an additive, taking several photos and your camera stitching them together and adding where it sees light. I find it to be really awesome if you're trying to move one lit subject that we're in a background where everything else is still. Lightning, it's good to photograph lightning. That's about it. I haven't found a whole lot of other uses for it, but there was this thing that I did where I glued LED light strips to my Iaito, moved it around, but I had this battery pack that was hard to move around, and it was hard to turn on and off, and I couldn't sheathe the sword in the scabbard, and so I thought this would be a little bit more fun because I can draw it from sheathed, and I can swing it around, and more or less, that's what I did. I got these images. You tell me if you like them or not. And what they are is just it's gathering the light of me moving the sword around, and I had to experiment and kind of relearn how to use the feature. But in effect, the gist is it comes out with a neat looking photo, which is fun. This isn't really much more than pretty, but there are some things that it's useful for me. So as I'm trying to do kata, I'm trying to do a kata, but also make a good photo. So some of the photos are of a kata that I'm trying to do correctly, and some of them are me swirling the sword around trying to make a neat photo. But in one of the kata, I'm supposed to make this big swooping arc. And so I should see this big swooping arc in the photo, and I don't. And we're doing something like this, like a kendo style or katori style swing instead of a big toyama kind of swing. And that tells me I'm doing my kata wrong. So as a martial artist, there are things that I'm picking out that I can't see on video really well. The blade tip moves really fast. It's hard to see where it's going. But in this particular case, I know what path it's supposed to be traveling, and I can see that the light isn't there. So there are some things that I can use to critique myself with these photos that are actually kind of handy and that tell me I have a bad habit I need to break and should really pay more attention to it. Go back out there, swing the sword a few thousand more times. But is it a worthwhile thing to do if you're a martial artist? No. It's a giant pain in the butt to get these photos. It's really more of a photo exercise, but there are some other little nitpicky things that you can garner from it. As it is, it's a fun little exercise. It combines a few things that I like. Playing with new sword-related toys, playing with cameras, editing photos, sharing this with a video that I'm going to have to edit. So it combines a lot of interest for me. I don't know if it's interesting to you, but for me, it was a bit of fun. Anyway, these are $80 if you want to do a similar sword swinging in the dark photography nonsense thing. It's fun. That is, other than it looks cool, and if your kid wants one, they're $80, and just, bear in mind they're not going to be able to swing them hard at anything. If that's okay, it's a fun toy, and I'd plan on gluing something a little bit, and also maybe tossing some lacquer on the Ito so it doesn't come unraveled. And for that, I think it's a fun toy. For me to be able to have a tool to do this and revisit maybe a few times this photo experiment is kind of fun. I really don't mind it. If you want to do something similar or have a different photography project in mind, this, I think in low light could look really neat. It doesn't have brightness settings or much that you could change, but at the same time, it's different than a lightsaber, but has like a similar effect. The lightsabers, admittedly, they sent me are much more elaborate in terms of the features and colors and nonsense that they do. This is just one color. It lights up, but at the same time, it's kind of nifty. I don't mind it. It's a unique toy, and it let me get some cool photos. So I do want to say thanks to the folks at Time Blade Guild. I'll link in the description down below if you're interested in one of these. That's all I've got. Cheers, and thanks for watching.